We already got married last month, Dad. The words hit me like a sledgehammer as I sat there holding $60,000 worth of wedding receipts in my trembling hands. I stared at my daughter across our Sunday dinner table, the chicken turning to sand in my mouth. 5 years of double shifts and canceled vacations flashed before my eyes in an instant. What did you just say? My voice emerged barely above a whisper. My daughter Emily, my only daughter, tucked a strand of blonde hair behind her ear and had the audacity to smile. The rehearsed kind of smile she'd been using since high school whenever she wanted something expensive. It's not a big deal, Dad. We just did a small courthouse thing, she continued, stabbing a piece of broccoli. But since you've already saved all that money, we could really use it for a down payment on the house we've been looking at. I turned to Patricia, my wife of 30 years, who suddenly found her meatloaf fascinating. You knew? She nodded without meeting my eyes. Emily swore me to secrecy. She wanted to tell you herself. 5 years. For 5 years, I had worked extra shifts at the garage, taken on side jobs fixing neighbors' cars in my driveway, and skipped lunches. All to save $60,000 for the wedding my daughter had been planning in excruciating detail since she was 16. The flowers I just told you about, I said slowly. The ones I ordered last week? The venue deposit? The catering I paid for yesterday? Emily winced. I know. I'm sorry about that. We can cancel everything and get some of the deposits back, right? My son Jake slammed his glass down. Are you serious, Em? Dad's been killing himself for years to pay for your dream wedding. He even postponed his knee surgery. I shot Jake a look to quiet him down. That last part was supposed to stay between us men. Patricia's eyes widened. What knee surgery? It's nothing, I muttered. It's not nothing, Jake continued, ignoring my warning glare. Dad's been limping for months. The doctor said he needs surgery, but he put it off because he was saving every penny for Princess Emily's special day. Emily's face flushed. I didn't know about any surgery. You didn't ask, Jake shot back. You never ask about anything except what Dad can give you. That's enough, I said, pushing my chair back from the table. The scraping sound felt like it was tearing at my eardrums. Emily, Mark, you both should have told me before I made all these arrangements. But what's done is done. Congratulations on your marriage. I stood up, my knee protesting with a sharp jab of pain, and headed toward the door. Dad, wait. We still need to talk about the money, Emily called after me. I stopped, my hand on the doorframe, not turning around. What money? The wedding fund. We could really use it for our down payment. The house we want is perfect. For bedrooms, granite countertops, and in a great school district for when we have kids. I turned slowly, leaning against the door to take weight off my bad knee. Let me understand this correctly. You want the money I saved for your wedding, the wedding you decided not to have without telling me to buy a house. Emily nodded eagerly, either missing or ignoring the edge in my voice. It would be such a great start for us. Better than spending it all on one day, right? Mark's been looking at this place in Somerton Hills. It's a bit over our budget, but with your help, my help, I repeated. The words tasted bitter. Like my help with college tuition? My help with your car? My help with rent when you and Mark decided to move in together last year. Mark finally spoke up, his voice placating. Mr. Wright, we really appreciate everything you've done for us. And Emily's right. Investing in a home would be smarter financially than a big party. I stared at my son-in-law. This man I'd welcomed into our family, who now sat at my table explaining how I should spend my money after they'd lied to me for a month. When's the housewarming? I asked. Emily brightened. We can get the keys in 3 weeks if we move quickly with the down payment. 3 weeks, I nodded. And when were you going to tell me about the wedding that already happened? After I paid the band? After I bought my tux? Patricia intervened. Thomas, they made a practical decision. Young people today don't care about big weddings like we did. Young people today, I echoed, feeling something old and tired inside me finally snap. Emily has been talking about her dream wedding since she was in high school. She's shown me Pinterest boards of dresses and centerpieces for years. We've visited venues together. I looked directly at my daughter. What changed, Emily? A flash of something guilt, maybe, crossed her face before she composed herself. We just realized what a waste of money it would be, Dad. Jake snorted. Yeah, right. What really happened? Mark's gambling debts come due. Mark's head snapped up. Watch it, kid. Jake, at 24 hardly a kid, leaned forward. Dad, they're lying. I heard him on the phone last week talking about Mark's financial situation and how they needed cash fast. The room erupted. Mark lunged halfway across the table toward Jake. Emily screamed at her brother to shut up. Patricia yelled at everyone to calm down. I just stood there, watching my family implode, thinking about 5 years of 60-hour work weeks. 5 years of saying no to fishing trips with friends. 5 years of ignoring the growing pain in my knee until walking had become a daily exercise in endurance. Enough! I roared, silencing the room. I rarely raised my voice, which made the impact even greater when I did. Emily, Mark, no more lies. What's really going on? Mark and Emily exchanged glances. Finally, Mark sighed. I made some investments that didn't work out. We need cash to cover some obligations. Gambling? I asked, remembering Jake's accusation. No. Well, not exactly. Cryptocurrency and some stock options that tanked. And a business opportunity with my buddy Chris that needed capital. He means the sports betting app they developed, Emily corrected. It was supposed to be the next big thing, but they got some coding wrong and lost their investors' money. I stared at them. So you need my wedding fund to pay back angry investors? They're not angry, Mark said quickly. Just expecting their returns. By when? End of the month, Mark admitted. But the house is real too. We figured we could use part of the money for the down payment and part to take care of the business situation. I nodded slowly, limping back to my chair and sitting down heavily. Let me see if I understand. You secretly got married, knowing I was spending thousands on your wedding. You lied to me for a month. And now you want me to hand over $60,000 that I worked overtime for 5 years to save, so you can bail Mark out of a failed business venture and buy a house you can't afford. Emily had the decency to look embarrassed. When you put it that way, it sounds terrible. Because it is terrible, Emily. I took a deep breath. What happened to you? You used to be such a thoughtful kid. Tears welled in her eyes. Daddy, I'm sorry, but we're desperate. Mark's friends are really counting on him. Some of them put in their life savings. And that's my problem. How exactly? Because we're family, she snapped, the tears evaporating as quickly as they had appeared. Families help each other. You've always said that. Yes, they do, I agreed. Like when Jake helped me install that transmission last weekend even though he had plans. Or when your mother took a second job when the garage was struggling during the recession. Families help each other through honesty and shared sacrifice, not lies and entitlement. So you're not giving us the money? The incredulity in her voice made her sound like a teenager again. No, Emily, I'm not. Mark stood up. With all due respect, sir, you saved that money for Emily. It should be hers. I saved it for her wedding. The one you two decided not to have without telling me. The one I'm still making payments on. We'll help cancel everything, Patricia offered. That's not the point. My voice was quiet now. It's not about the vendors or the deposits. It's about the disrespect. It's about thinking so little of me that you assumed I'd just hand over a small fortune after being lied to. Emily's face hardened. Fine. Keep your money. We'll figure it out ourselves. She stood and grabbed her purse. Mark followed, shooting me a disappointed look as if I were the one who had betrayed them. Emily, I called as they reached the door. What was the real reason you canceled the big wedding? The truth this time. She hesitated, then sighed. Mark's investors are threatening to sue him if they don't get their money back. A big wedding would look really bad right before a lawsuit about mismanaged funds. With that bombshell, they left, the front door closing behind them with a decisive click. The dining room fell silent. Patricia stared at her plate. Jake watched me with concern. Dad, you okay? I wasn't, but I nodded anyway. Your knee's been getting worse, hasn't it? Patricia asked softly. Yeah. There didn't seem to be much point in hiding it anymore. Why didn't you tell me about the surgery? I shrugged. Didn't want to worry you. And I knew if I spent the money on myself, we'd be short for Emily's wedding. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry, Thomas. I should have told you about the courthouse wedding as soon as I found out. Yes, you should have. I couldn't quite keep the hurt from my voice. Jake began clearing the plates. So what are you going to do with the wedding fund now, Dad? I hadn't thought that far ahead yet. For so long, that money had a singular purpose. Emily's perfect day. Now it felt tainted somehow. I don't know, I admitted. Pay off some bills. Maybe finally get that knee fixed. You should take Mom somewhere nice, Jake suggested. You guys never had a real honeymoon. Patricia and I exchanged looks. He was right. We'd eloped when Patricia was pregnant with Emily, planning to have a proper celebration someday when money wasn't so tight. Someday never came. Maybe, I said, not committing. The idea of spending the money on anything felt wrong still, like admitting final defeat. The next morning, I called the orthopedic surgeon I'd consulted 6 months earlier and scheduled the knee replacement I'd been putting off. The receptionist seemed surprised when I said I wanted to pay cash. "Most people use insurance," she remarked. "I've been saving for something special," I replied. "Turns out, this is it." That afternoon, I received a text from Mark. "Emily's really upset. Please reconsider the house money. Her mom agrees with us." I didn't respond. Patricia and I had already had a long, painful conversation about her betrayal. She understood she'd crossed a line by keeping Emily's secret, even if she still thought I should help the kids out. 2 days later, Jake stopped by the garage where I worked. He found me on my back under a Chevy Impala, diagnosing a transmission issue. "Emily called me," he said without preamble. "Mark's in trouble. Those investors weren't just friends. Some have connections to some sketchy people. They're threatening him." I slid out from under the car and sat up with effort, my knee screaming. "What kind of threats?" "I don't know exactly, but Em sounded scared." I wiped my hands on a rag, thinking, "Did she ask you for money too?" Jake nodded. "I told her I'm still paying off student loans." She hung up on me. I sighed, feeling the full weight of my 52 years. "I'll talk to her." After my shift, I drove to Emily's apartment. She opened the door looking surprised and wary. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "Jake told me about Mark's situation. Can I come in?" She stepped aside reluctantly. The apartment was in disarray, with half-packed boxes scattered around. Mark was nowhere to be seen. "Moving already?" I asked. "We have to," she said, her voice small. "The landlord's raising the rent, and with everything else." She trailed off. I lowered myself onto their couch, stretching my bad leg out. "Tell me what's really going on, Emily." "All of it this time." She sat across from me, and for a moment I saw the little girl who used to climb into my lap with skinned knees, trusting me to fix everything. "Mark got in too deep," she began. The app was his big chance to prove himself to his dad, who's always calling him a failure. They raised money from friends, family, some local business guys. When it crashed, they lost everything. "How much does he owe?" $48,000, she whispered. Almost exactly the amount remaining in the wedding fund after the non-refundable deposits I'd paid. "And these people are threatening him?" She nodded, tears streaming down her face now. "One of them came by yesterday. He said he knows where we live, where I work." "Dad, I'm scared." My protective instincts flared. "Where's Mark now?" "At his parents' house, trying to get them to remortgage their home. They refused." I closed my eyes, thinking. Part of me wanted to tell her this was Mark's mess to fix. That actions have consequences. That they'd brought this on themselves with lies and poor choices. But looking at my terrified daughter, I couldn't do it. "I'll pay off Mark's debt," I said finally. "But there are conditions." Emily's face lit up with relief. "Anything, Dad." "Thank you. First, I'm not giving you the money. I'll meet with these investors myself and settle it directly." She hesitated but nodded. "Second, you and Mark are going to marriage counseling, starting with financial transparency." "Okay," she agreed, though less enthusiastically. "Third, no house in Somerton Hills. You live within your means from now on. No more bailouts." She wiped her eyes. "We understand." "And finally," I said, "you're both coming to the hospital when I have my knee surgery next month. You'll help your mother with my recovery." Emily looked confused. "Of course we would anyway. That's what family does." I raised an eyebrow. "Is it?" "Because that hasn't been my experience lately." She had the grace to look ashamed. 2 weeks later, I met with Mark's investors at a coffee shop. They turned out to be 3 middle-aged men who had put their savings into what they thought was a sure thing. They weren't criminals, just angry people who felt betrayed, something I understood all too well. I paid them each what they were owed, making it clear this was the end of their association with my son-in-law. They seemed relieved to walk away with their money, no questions asked. With the remaining $12,000 of the wedding fund, I did something I'd never done before. I booked a vacation. A 2-week Caribbean cruise for Patricia and me following my knee surgery and recovery. When I showed her the brochure, she burst into tears. "We can't afford this," she protested. "We can," I assured her. "It's what's left of Emily's wedding fund." "But that's for the kids," she insisted, still caught in the mindset of parental sacrifice. I took her hand. "For 30 years, everything has been for the kids. This is for us. For the honeymoon we never had." For the anniversaries, we celebrated with pizza because that's all we could afford. For you standing by me when the garage almost went under." She smiled through her tears. "What about Emily and Mark? They're adults making their own choices now. Some good, some bad. They'll figure it out." And surprisingly, they did. Mark found a job with a tech company, a real one this time, with a steady paycheck. Emily started taking night classes to finish her teaching degree. They moved into a modest apartment and stuck with their counseling. The day before my surgery, Emily came to the house alone. She handed me an envelope. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it." Inside was a check for $2,000, a small fraction of what I'd paid to Mark's investors, but significant given their finances. "It's the first payment," she explained. "We're going to pay you back, Dad. All of it, even if it takes years." I studied my daughter's face, seeing determination there that had been missing for a long time. "Keep it," I said, handing the check back. "Put it toward your teaching certification." She pushed it back to me. "No, you taught me that actions have consequences. That debt should be paid. I need to do this, for me, not just for you." I folded the check and put it in my wallet. "Okay, I'll add it to your down payment fund for when you're truly ready for a house." She smiled, looking more like the thoughtful girl I remembered. "I'm sorry, Dad. For everything. For taking you for granted." "I know, sweetheart," I said, pulling her into a hug. "I know." 6 months later, with a new knee and a tan from the Caribbean sun, I returned to work at the garage with a lighter heart. The wedding fund was gone, but it had served its purpose after all, just not the one I'd originally intended. It hadn't bought my daughter's perfect day. Instead, it had bought her a chance to grow up. It had bought my wife and me our long overdue honeymoon. And most importantly, it had bought me the realization that sometimes the best gift we can give our children isn't money or things, but the space to make their own mistakes and find their own way back. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.